Thanks to Squarespace for supporting this channel. Whether you guys need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace. So today we're going to be talking about bad artist habits. I want to give a shout out to Bobby Chu for this idea. I will link his video in the description if you guys want to check it out. Shout out to you, Bobby Chu. Today we're going to be talking about a few of the ideas I talked about in my previous video, mind-blowing artist advice. So if you guys haven't seen that, I highly recommend you check it out. I think it's mega important. But yeah, let's dive right in. We're going to do some time-lapse art and talk about these 5 bad artist habits. Welcome to the voiceover. Number 1 on our bad artist habits. Let's start with something light. This bad habit has to do with multitasking, and specifically watching TV and movies while you make art. Okay, don't get me wrong, I've done this so many times, all throughout my undergrad. Here's the thing, if you're making art pretty casually and just having fun, it's not a big deal at all. I'm talking about when you're really trying to focus and pump stuff out. You may feel differently on this, but I'll just cite my own experience for some reference, and you can choose for yourself whether you want to apply this or not. All throughout college, I would share my eyes between screen time on my shows, looking at my reference images, and looking back at my painting. I started to catch myself all the time, drifting into my shows proportionally way too long, especially when I hit a climax in a plotline. Way more time would lapse than I intended where I wasn't actually working, and even when I was working, my focus was totally lacking. During this time, I had a friend with a similar problem. She was in the physics program. She didn't have very many friends outside of school, and she didn't work, so she'd come home, spend her evenings and weekends in the kitchen, and rotate between TV, homework, and cooking. It stretched out her homework time so far, and her focus was always very distracted. She ended up doing homework all day, every day, and had little time for anything else. On top of that, her grades really suffered, and she had to retake classes. I think if she could have compartmentalized her time, designating portions strictly for work and some strictly for relaxation, I really believe she would have worked quicker and done a better job. Then she could have enjoyed her downtime and wouldn't have had to stress during it. Bringing this back to me though, the same concept applies. I was resistant to accepting it for years, but I finally did. Movies playing makes me way less productive. But here's the other problem. I get bored painting full-time with nothing else going on in my brain. This is why I love podcasts, music, and audiobooks now. This type of multitasking is actually more productive for me, personally, than when I play nothing at all, because it distracts me from the passage of time. If I find material I'm so sucked into, I can paint without stopping for long periods and feel excited to go back to painting the next day. Just for some recommendations, if you're looking for audio material, the Harry Potter book series kept me happy for a long time. I loved the first season of the podcast Serial, which goes through this murder investigation. There's NPR's This American Life podcast, where they step through different themes and stories each week. The Moth is another storytelling podcast. More recently, I loved the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fudge, which I talked about in depth last week. I've read and listened to a lot more, but I'll leave it here and open up the question to you guys. Do you have any recommendations? I'm actually on the hunt for more material right now. I've gone through a lot of adolescent dystopian fiction, self-help books, more recently some fantasy fiction, and always a lot of podcasts. So yeah, help me on the comments below. Okay, next, number 2, comparing yourselves to others. This bad habit has a lot to do with how we measure success. In that book I've been obsessing over, the Subtle Art book, Mark Manson tells this story. Dave Mustaine is a guitarist, lead singer, and co-founder in a very successful band called Megadeth. For all his success though, he struggled to find happiness in his achievements. See, before Megadeth began, Dave was the original lead guitarist of Metallica, but was kicked out. After this devastating moment, he decided to form his own band, and made his goal to be better, more famous, more successful than his previous bandmates. Now if you're like me in this story, I instantly recognize the name Metallica, but Megadeth? For all its success, it's not a name I'm acquainted with. And I guess herein lies the problem. Dave worked his butt off and made some very successful, affluent career, but for all his work, Megadeth never grew as large as Metallica. Because Dave measured his success after trying to beat Metallica, he diminished his perspective on his own success since leaving. This gets into the heart of why comparing ourselves to others is so destructive. Here Dave had his dream career, was getting wide recognition, fame, money, and yet he couldn't enjoy it. Comparing ourselves to others rolls into a huge number of bad artist habits. Obsessing over things we can't control, making excuses for why other people are succeeding and not taking responsibility over our own successes and failures, feeling negativity towards ourselves or others, giving up, self-doubt, discouragement. Let's talk a little bit more about some of these ideas. Bad habit number 3. Giving up. A number of things can lead to people wanting to surrender to the art lords and pack their bags, but I'm going to specifically focus on why comparing your art to others, or even to yourself, can be damaging when done wrong. There's a good way to reflect on others' work and a bad way. If we're getting caught up in what we wish our art looked like, and focusing only on our weaknesses and what we lack, well, that would be the bad kind. We can do this looking back at our own work even. Say, for example, if you feel you were more successful historically than you are currently. When we get impatient and lose sight of our own current successes and potential is when we fall in danger of discouragement, leading us to give up. Whether you're in a long rut or just trying something new in a piece and feel like you can't quite nail your intention, you can't carry the weight of believing that you're always entitled to immediate success. I explained this concept much more in depth in my last video, but just to touch on the point, I'll repeat myself here. Measure your success based on your effort, not on achieving perfect results every time in your work or on beating other people, both things you just can't control. It's extremely harmful if you have the outlook that other people's successes detract from your own. They don't. And the mindset only sets you up for misery and discouragement, which brings us to our 4th bad habit. Number 4, discouraging others. If you want the support of people around you, start a trend and be supportive of their ideas too. By creating a positive, encouraging, and helpful environment around you, you set yourself up to find communities of people with similar goals who are committed, hardworking, and brave about going after the things they want. I've had a dream of being an artist for years and years, and I've done my part to make that goal a reality by continually taking steps to achieve it. But even though I was hardworking, I was filled with self-doubt. Luckily, I had a good support system around me and began to hang out with like-minded people who shared some of my entrepreneurial goals. We swapped tips, gave advice, shared what we were working on, what was working for us and what wasn't, and we continue to do that for each other today. And now I try to impart some of those things that I've learned to you guys, and have seen such a large, supportive community of people grow into my life as a result. If I haven't said it enough, thank you guys so much. Bad habit number 5. Waiting. Waiting for the perfect moment to try, the perfect set of life circumstances to surround you, the moment of inspiration to hit, waiting for enough free time or money or motivation. I'm going back to a few points from my previous video, starting here. Action breeds motivation. If you are waiting for the planets to align before you get started, you may never accomplish anything at all. Life will always have curveballs, but honestly, it's very possible that your lack of action has more to do with fear of facing different insecurities you're harboring and realities you don't want to confront than it has to do with bad timing. Maybe you're afraid if you try to sell art, no one will buy it, and instead of being an unknown artist, you'll have to face the idea of being a known artist that no one purchases from. Or maybe if you pick up your brush after years of not working, you'll have to confront how much your skills have fallen from a lack of practice. And now instead of being able to identify as a great artist who just didn't paint that much, you'd have to confront the idea of being an artist who had a lot of lost time to make up for and skills to relearn. Maybe you make art in a quiet home and you want to be part of a larger artist community and have an audience, but fear that if you share it online, you'll have to confront others' perceptions of your abilities. All of these things make you vulnerable and could potentially call into question the identity you've built for yourself on a subconscious level that you're trying to protect. These are facts though. If you never try to sell your work, you never will make money from it. If you never start painting, your skills will never improve. If you never put yourself out there, you'll never find an audience or community. And lastly, if you never try new things, you'll never be able to reap the rewards. Before we end this voiceover, I just wanted to say thank you again to Squarespace. This is the third of a 4-part video series they're sponsoring for me, so if you are looking to start a website or sell your art, create an online business, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform, flexible for any kind of website or creator. They offer unique domains, beautiful designer templates, and have award-winning 24/7 customer service. If you guys want to start a free trial today at squarespace.com, you can enter the code CLONTS to get 10% off your first purchase, and I'll leave the link for you guys in the description. Do you guys do any of these bad habits? Because I've done literally all of them. Did I miss any? Do you guys do some that I don't do? Make sure if you guys didn't see that last week's video that you go check it out and subscribe and like if you guys want to make my day blissful and filled with joy. And make sure you don't forget to hit me with some of that audio material that you guys like, audiobooks, podcasts, so I can binge on it this week. Oh, also, my website is back up and running, so robinclance.com. If you guys want to check out any of my paintings, or if there's something you've seen in one of my videos that is not in the shop, you guys can hit me up in the little message contact area on there. So, robinclance.com. And that's it. I'll see you guys next Friday. Goodbye!